What is Yu-Gi-Oh's largest archetype? With Yu-Gi-Oh reaching its quarter-century anniversary, 25 years worth of card releases have come and gone. The Yu-Gi-Oh anime is on its 8th incarnation, with each new zestily haired protagonist ushering in their own crop of Yu-Gi-Oh decks and archetypes. And with each passing year, seemingly pushing the boundaries of what can be legally printed on a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and power creep pushing even the most successful strategies back into the depths of your card binder, Konami has slowly trickled out support for the franchise's most iconic decks, in an attempt to keep them shelf-stable. What results is a slowly inflating list of archetypal cards that would make even the most ardent trickle-down economist blush. So, let's rifle through the said cards to find the largest Yu-Gi-Oh archetype. The first order of business to find Yu-Gi-Oh's largest archetype is to determine what is an archetype. For starters, the most simple definition of an archetype, as defined by the folks over in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is, well, the cards gotta have the same name. This would mean decks like My Valentine's Harpies, as well as powerful strategies like Sword Soul would make the cut. In this realm, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5's Yuya Sakaki makes a strong showing with his Performapal deck, with a staggering 94 individual monster cards that share the Performapal name. But looking at the card catalog of Performapal monsters reveals a wrinkle in our strategy. Some cards, like Last Minute Cancel, which has the effect to return any Performapal monster you control that is destroyed by battle or card effect to the hand, do not have the Performapal naming convention, yet have effects that explicitly mention and strategize with the Performapal strategy. So I called up a few friends in high places, and I got the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition eroded to the cards have to include the same name or mention that name in their effects. With this updated definition, we can unveil the true king of all archetypes, the largest archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh history, Heroes. With a staggering 250 cards to the archetype's name, completely lapping the second place Performapals. Part of what makes the hero archetype so large is the fact that it branches off into many smaller sub-archetypes. Fans of the anime should know that the main protagonist's Jaden Yuki has his elemental heroes, but Heroes encompasses a number of character decks like Aster Phoenix's Destiny Heroes as well as Vision Heroes. Oh, and as the anime goes on, Jaden begins toying around with the Evil Heroes and the less aptly named Neo-Spacians. Oh, and there also exists modern support for the hero cards exclusive to the trading card game, the Extra Heroes, which further adds to the rampant and reckless hero body count. On the other hand, it makes sense that an archetype as old and achy as the Heroes would have built up such a large repertoire, what with nearly 20 years of support doled out. So surely it follows that Dark Magician and Blue Eyes, originating with the founding Yu-Gi-Oh set and starter decks, would have racked up hundreds of cards by now. But in a cruel twist of constant Konami advertising malpractice, the most iconic decks that the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise has championed, both are critically understaffed. In fact, pulling up Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel reveals that Dark Magician only has about 66 cards available to be played, while his rival, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, or in this case, quote-unquote, Blue Eyes, has only 59 cards to its name. But turns out we can break the rules even further, and stretch the definition of an archetype to find even larger fish in the proverbial sea of cards. For example, in the last 10 years worth of card releases, Konami has been experimenting with expanded lore sets for their cards and archetypes. For example, the 2020s saw the release of the Fallen of Albaz series of cards, an expanded world and story told exclusively through the progressive release of new sets and their expressive card arts, tying in the likes of, and bear with me here, Sword Soul, Ice Jade, Springans, Tri-Brigade, Dogmatica, Bestials, okay, you get the point. But what's interesting to us is how interconnected the archetypes are. For example, the main archetype, Branded, centers around the monster Fallen of Albaz and all of his fusions. However, if you were to look up Branded, only about 30 individual cards would be found. However, if you were to look up Fallen of Albaz, you'd generate a list of about 41 cards. Suddenly, our definition of an archetype begins to fall apart. Despite marrying into the Springans family, Tri-Brigade Kit's lore-based retrained Springans kit somehow searches for branded spells instead of Springans. Tri-Brigade Mercurier doesn't have the words Tri-Brigade or Branded printed anywhere in his effect, and instead refers solely to the Fallen of Albaz. Yet he is a staple in branded deck lists everywhere. Luckily, with Branded being such a new archetype and its run of support finishing up with its own in-lore anime send-off episode, the total count of Branded or Fallen of Albaz or Abyss lore cards doesn't quite reach the heights of the heroes, at least for now. But stretching the definition of an archetype to its absolute maximum, we can look to the historical use of archetype and deck to generate the true king of all archetypes. Because back in the mid to late 2000s, the most powerful deck of its time was Chaos, an archetype whose diversity and inclusion policies were truly ahead of their time, as all light and dark monsters, and even a few guys who were just a little too good at milling, could call themselves Chaos Monsters. It has seen many variations, from Dad to Chaos Dragons to modern support like Chaos Angel, and even though they lack the Chaos name, members of the not-so-inclusive club include the likes of Raikou, Lightsworn Hunter, Cyber Valley, and even the Earth monster, Card Trooper. And with over 1,700 light monsters, and around about 2,400 dark monsters, almost half of Yu-Gi-Oh's 11,000 cards are members of the illustrious Chaos archetype, making it the largest archetype in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Look, if you've listened this far, you gotta leave a like and maybe even subscribe, I don't know.